Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. It's Friday. You know what that means.
Front Office Friday, Gold Medal Edition.
Let's go. Gold Medal Edition. The big game coming up tomorrow. We had one of the most exciting games that I can recall. Yesterday, we'll talk a bit about that. Team USA, their incredible comeback against Serbia. We'll talk about some of the news around the league, Christmas Day games being unveiled. Lots of stuff for us to get into today. If you haven't done so yet, you're over on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. And last thing, hit that like button right now for me. Let's get a like spike.
Keith,
like spike. Let's go. Studio Stu was here to start the show and then said, "That's it. I've done my job," and he's now wandered off. But Keith, I guess let's start with that game. I was on playback and as well as live on Lakers Nation. I was losing my mind. I'm sure you were doing the same, Keith, during that game. Like, that was one of those games where, like, throw professionalism out the window. I was yelling. My wife heard me from across the house. That was one of the most fun games that we've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, without a doubt. There are things that are not even safe for YouTube that I wouldn't repeat. We're coming out of my mouth here in the office, letting loose a little bit with this. Yeah, it's Team USA in any sport, and then like Boston College athletics. Those are like my last bastions of like completely irrational fandom. Like, I will be professional as I can be about other stuff. I like to see my other teams win. But to be honest, I've seen all my other teams win, and some of them several times in my lifetime. Though nothing ever gets old with Team USA winning for me, and nothing ever gets old if BC ever does well in any sport. But beyond that, yeah, man, I am really kind of I was angry. Like, I was very mad at the way they were playing, the things they were doing throughout the course of that game. I didn't understand a lot of it, and but they pulled it out in the end. That's all that mattered. As I put it on Twitter live, the old guys stepped up, right? KD, yeah. LeBron, Steph, like, they stepped up and made big plays at the end, and it was great.
Yeah, there were moments where every single player in that closing five had a big contribution to that win. When I look at LeBron, Devin Booker hit some big shots there. What did well defensively? Joel Embiid hit some big shots. Of course, Steph Curry went crazy. Kevin Durant had that crazy crossover with the shot clock winding down and then buries the smooth jumper. Every single guy in that closing lineup made a big, memorable, like, never gonna forget type of play, at least one. And I think that's one of the things that really stood out, is it took all five of those guys really working together in concert in order to get that win. Obviously, Steph Curry will get most of the spotlight, and rightfully so. Keith, I've been saying this, that we were due for a Steph game. I kept saying where he's going to go like 7 for 9 from three. Instead, he beat that. He wound up going 9 for 14 from three, dropping 36 points in a 40-minute game. Like, that's incredible that he was able to pull off that kind of performance. Of course, he gets the spotlight in this one, but amazing that all of those guys that closed out the game all made clutch plays for Team USA.
Yeah, and he was one off the Team USA scoring record, which Carmelo Anthony had 37. I forget which year it was, but that is the Team USA record. So one off that. Yeah, he hit the clutch free throws at the end of the game too. I didn't understand Serbia's end game strategy at all. I thought that was really poor by them. There was only a 3-second difference, and there's no
not fouling.
And they couldn't use timeouts. So, like, they let way too much time come off, and people were like, yeah, but you didn't want to foul Curry. Yeah, well, you don't want to foul any of the guys that were on the court at the time. It's the clock. You're fighting the clock there as much as you're fighting the score. And, you hope somebody misses and you get a shot at it and go from there. But, yeah, it was even Embiid made some big shots. I want to say it was they made their last 10 shots from the field, I think is how it came down to. I mean, there was really, the offense was never the problem in that game. They needed to lock in defensively. Defense was atrocious. I have now seen the entire game. I missed the first half of it, but I've gone back and watched the entire game now. The off-ball defense was so bad from basically every guy on the team. It was like losing shooters, not blocking out rebounders. Just it was a mess. And that's the kind of stuff you can't have. And especially against France, who is going to be, they're going to come out fired up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And one of the ways they beat Germany was getting extra shots. Team USA has to be better on the glass than they were in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a big game tomorrow against France. This is, I mean, the gold medal is on the line, but you're playing France in France, right? I mean, this is they're going to have an insane home court advantage. Keith, dare I say, I don't want to put this on that because they've played well for stretches, but I think they have gotten a bit of a favorable whistle. The French team has, especially against that game. I mean, look, I'm trying because the problem is that's going to be taken as dismissing anything that France does, right? As oh, they're only there because of the whistle. Yes, they've done some good things. That's the thing. I don't want to take away any type of credit for the way that they've played. I think they've done some things out there that have been really good. I think they've fed off the emotion of the crowd very, very well. Victor Wembanyama obviously has been phenomenal. His passing has really popped to me. But yes, they've had a favorable whistle, and we saw it in that game against Japan. So those are some things that Team USA is going to have to battle against. They're going to have to understand that if they're getting frustrated with the whistle, they're going to have to adapt and overcome. They have to fight through it, and they have to go in expecting that they're probably not going to get the better of the officiating on the night or the afternoon, as it were.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, they're gonna get hosed on a bunch of calls. I think it's gonna be really, really rough for them. There's a lot of people in the chat talking about the Wyc Grousbeck, Celtics owner. For now, they're as we've talked about before, they're in the middle of trying to sell the team. He was on Boston radio today and basically went off. It was like, if Joe Mazzulla was coaching this team, they'd all be better off. That's all right. He's having his guys back there, but he's clearly not happy about Jason Tatum not playing, Jaylen Brown not being on the team. He kind of ripped into Steve Kerr a little bit. And I'll say this, because everybody's going to go, oh, you're a homer. I get it. At the end of the day, if they win the game, that's what matters. And that's exactly what Tatum said too. He's taking the high road with all this. It is absolute ignorance that he couldn't get in that game yesterday. They were getting killed by switching everything, because Serbia was either switching and getting a big on a small, or they were switching and then the smalls were cooking the Team USA bigs. And his strategy of, we have to go big with Jokic. Well, when Jokic went out, he immediately then went to Davis and Adebayo together, and they bled points left and right. Whatever his reasoning is now dumb. His things he's saying to the media about it are just getting even dumber than that. And it's to the point where now you're seeing, like, Jamal Crawford was one today, but a bunch of current players are like, this is all nonsense. Like, none of this makes sense to what he's saying, in these cases with this, like none of this is ringing true. So there's something going on. And players on the team have been like, no, man, there's nothing going on with Tatum. He's practicing hard. He's doing everything that's been asked. And, for whatever reason, he just does not want to play him. And his lineup decisions continue to be bad, and they're probably not going to matter. Like, I get it, but it's, we're at a point where this is just, really gotten stupid at this point.
Well, if you're going to get killed on switches, Jason Tatum's one of the more switchy players on the team in terms of just size and the ability to guard 1 through 5. Not that you would want him to guard a 5 or a 1 necessarily, but just he's more capable than most guys are. So I agree with you there. When I look at that, when I think about, okay, Jokic goes, like, if Jokic is in, AD and Bam, let's go, right? You put them both on the floor, and then one can come over as the help defender. That makes some sense. When Jokic goes out, then okay, there's your opportunity, which is funny because oftentimes Steve Kerr gets flack for going too small. But in this case, he didn't read it correctly and went big when France went small, and it's zigging when they should be zagging, things of that nature. Now, I will say that this is, if you're of the mindset that Jason Tatum should be playing over Derek White, this was Exhibit A. I thought this was a bad. He only played 6 minutes and change, but this was not a good performance from Derek White. And this one, I thought he made a number of mental errors.
Terrible went under Bam game, terrible Ant game. They were both. Those three guys are all awful. There's
Yeah.
no reason he couldn't have played over any one of those guys.
Yeah, he could have gotten minutes in that situation,
Yep.
and so that was surprising. I understand why, specifically, the owner of the Celtics is going to be particularly
Sure.
upset
Oh, of
about
course.
Tatum not playing, but I do think there's legitimate argument why Tatum should have gotten minutes in this one over some of the guys that we saw out there. Now, I thought most people turned to Devin Booker. I thought Devin Booker was just fine in this one, and defensively did some good things, hit a big shot late. But when you look at that bench rotation, especially if you're going to employ this switch everything strategy, it would have made a lot more sense to put Tatum out there on the floor. So I agree with you there. I hope it doesn't come back to haunt the U.S. because it took, I mean, let's face it, a pretty Herculean effort to get them back into this game against Serbia. And a lot of that was some of the defensive issues that we saw. Serbia was red hot. They were hitting pretty much everything, but they were also getting everything. They were getting open looks, getting the shots that they wanted. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter that Team USA finally locked down on things. And here's the other thing, Keith. I mean, just to kind of, I know I'm going off here, but let's think about the future. Like right now, win the gold medal. Right now, win the gold medal. But what's the backbone of your team in 2028? Like, it's probably going to be Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum, Anthony, like Steph's not going to be there. LeBron's not going to be there. I don't know about Anthony Davis at that point.
Who knows?
Who knows, right?
At this point,
who knows on LeBron?
Yeah.
LeBron may be a cyborg at that point. Kevin Durant won't be there. So even if you have any eye towards the future too, you probably want Tatum to be getting this Olympic experience right now as well, because he's going to be, if not the guy on that team, because who knows what things are going to look like 4 years from now, he's going to be at the very least a central figure on this team. I'd feel a bit better about the future if Tatum was getting those reps right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And people are like, Tatum hasn't been good. He had 10 points and 10 rebounds against Puerto Rico, was one of their best players. He was one of their best players when they won a gold medal in 2020. He just won an NBA title by being the best all-around player on his team. Jaylen Brown deserved the finals MVP and played great, but Tatum was better all around. Like, this is the idea now that Jason Tatum is not good. This is just ignorance and stupidity. And if that's the opinion you have, you shouldn't watch basketball anymore. Just go away and go pick up another sport. It's just dumb.
I'll tell you what part of it is. I'll tell you what part of it is. The Celtics won. I've been here.
I get it.
I've seen this. The Celtics won, and so any chance anybody has to take a shot at them, they're going to take it. I mean, we got it 10 times worse when the Lakers won in 2020 and everybody said bubble chip and Mickey Mouse ring and all of that. It's right. That's just the peanut gallery kind of chiming in, throwing in their stuff, just trying to take a little shot at that is, I'm not saying that is everything, but that's also part of all of this too.
Sure. No, I mean, I get it, but it's just, I don't know. I just say I'm beyond frustrated with how dumb people have gotten about this. And now it's turned into, he wasn't even good in the finals. He did not shoot well, but he led the team in rebounds, assists. He was great defensively. He played the 5 for the majority of the finals with Porzingis out. Like, I'm really not sure what we're like, where people are coming up with this stuff. It's just stupid. And I'll also say this too, because I know we have a million Laker fans in here, because they're the ones who are, and I know most of it is needling, right? It's just, hey, let's poke the bear on this stuff. The same people are like, Tatum come to the Lakers on every single tweet that ever comes out about the guy. So it's like, make up your mind. Either he sucks and he's not good, or you don't want him. Like, stop being ignorant idiots.
It's just
like,
it's the social media world that we live in. Anytime anything negative happens with a player, everybody's got to pile on. Everybody's got to have their 2 cents and all of that. You have to be an extreme. You have to be either this guy is the worst ever, this guy is the greatest ever, and then you have to argue and yell at each other about it until you're blue in the face, because that's the world that we live
dumb. In. Like, my whole thing is, because again, a lot of it has been, so you want him to play over LeBron or KD? No, and no one's ever said that. I don't even know a single person who's made the case that he should be playing over LeBron or KD on Team USA. It's other guys that he should be out on the floor over. And if Kerr can't figure it out, that's on him. And then, if he decides, you know what, I don't need to do it another summer of this, then I don't need to do another summer of this. They're probably going to win the gold. He'll have 2 gold medals. And if he wants to take the summer off? Great. Let's go. That's perfectly fine with that. And everybody's like, Bill Simmons said this. Well, why are you taking anything he says serious? Because most of you reply with he's an idiot. Like, and he's just a Celtics homer. So then don't come back with that if that's your answer. Like, if you don't take him serious, then don't take him serious. Don't then bring it up as a talking point. Like, I don't care what he said. Like, that's just, whatever. I'm gonna breathe. I'm gonna let it go. And let's move on.
It's Friday. We've got a gold medal game tomorrow. Keith, what against France? If the U.S. is going to lose against France, how does that happen? What should we be watching for in terms of this would be the path towards an upset loss? And I haven't looked to see the over under right now. I don't know how much of a favorite the U.S. is, but I would assume the U.S. is a decent favorite at this point.
The way they'll lose is they will lose if they are equally as bad defensively like they were for out of that 40 minutes. What about 35 of those minutes in that game? They didn't really lock in till the end of the game there. So if they're equally as bad as that, especially on the boards, because France's whole thing is a lot of their offense is throw it up and then go get it. Like just go chase. Then there is the next part coming in after that. So you got to rebound, you got to play defense. Then if they're sloppy with the ball like they were early in this game, and then if they're not making shots, that's and I've said it pretty much all summer long. You have to have all three. If all three aren't happening, they're not going to lose. And what didn't happen in the game against Serbia, they made shots throughout the entire game, but they were sloppy and they weren't defending. That's when Serbia got the lead. When they cleaned up those other two, that's when they took off and started to, that was a pretty big turnaround in a pretty short amount of time that they made that happen.
Yeah, 40-minute game, one team gets hot from three. We talk about all the time. One shoots one in NBA games, 48-minute games. One team shoots 48% from three, the other team shoots 32%. That's usually game over, right? That's because of the volume of the three-point shot in today's game. But if you do that in a 40-minute game, that effect can be even greater because there's less time for those percentages to normalize. So, look, if France gets hot from three, if they're able to crush the U.S. on the boards, that could be a problem. Something to keep an eye on there. JJ Castillo said Team USA needs to play better and limit their turnovers against France. Absolutely. The turnovers were a problem. They cut down on the big time. I want to say they had 9 going into the fourth quarter yesterday, and I think they finished with 9, something like that.
Yeah, it's in that range. And the thing with the turnovers, too, is the ones that are killing me are the ones that are – what was that? They finished with 10.
Sorry.
Yeah, that sounded right. The ones that are killing me with the turnovers are the ones where like they do get a stop and then they just throw it away because they make like 3 extra passes too many on a fast break.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, not everything needs to be a huge highlight reel play. Like it's not there. And like the other thing too is absolutely like they need to take France serious because you mentioned it. They're going to have the referee on their side. The crowd's going to be fully on their side, and they're just going to have to be locked in and ready to go. Like and Kerr needs to be very quickly. Guys aren't playing well. You got to. This is now fully when if he doesn't play Jason Tatum and came out and like, look, I just didn't trust him to be on the floor. I'm not going to argue that too much. I think it's wrong and I think it's dumb. But if that's the way he feels, fine. You got to go with the guys you trust to go out there and win the game. And that's what we saw against Serbia in the fourth quarter. He scrapped the whole hockey lineup stuff and went to the guys. He was like, these are the guys I believe that will win the game for me, and I'm going to run with them. And that's what you need to be able to do in this gold medal game. That'll be big. But yeah, JJ's right, man. You got to play better. You got to limit the turnovers. But if they're making shots, it's going to be hard for France to keep up. Like that's going to be tough.
Looks like the U.S. is a 16.5 point favorite currently against France, but that was also they were 16.5, I believe, against Serbia as well. Then it dropped to 15.5. So, and they very well could have lost that game. I mean, I thought, Keith, okay, they're dropping this game, and that's going to happen here. But fortunately, they did pull it out. So, 16.5 point favorite. Obviously, that's a very, very heavy favorite. Like that's usually if we see in the NBA, we see a 10-point favorite. We're like, okay, that's a pretty heavy. 16 is. That is a extremely heavy favorite for the U.S. But once again, that's where they were yesterday. and they barely pulled that one out. But again, we wound up getting, because of the stress of that game, because of the the enormous nature of the moment, we wound up getting what was good, what will always be an unforgettable game. Like, this is an instant
Sure.
classic.
Yeah.
It's a game that
Great
we
game.
won't ever forget. And so, as frustrating as the first three quarters were with the mistakes the US made, they do have to clean those up. Um, the end result made that a game that we will always, 20 years from now, we're talking about the Olympics, we're gonna remember this game. And
Oh
that
yeah, without a
always
doubt.
has extra value to me and makes it even more special, because I'm like, man, this is one of those games that, because of how poorly they played at the beginning and the way they finished it, maybe it was frustrating for a while, but this is one of those games that we're going to treasure forever.
Yeah, and I think what will ultimately happen, let's say they come out and they roll France and it's just an absolute like blowout win. I think what will happen in the end is, if that's the way that goes down, we're gonna kind of forget, right, that it was
Oh, like the
that
Miracle on Ice.
yeah, or yeah, exact. Miracle on Ice, or the one I tend to think of very often is Duke winning the national title in 1991, because they beat UNLV in the Final Four, and they beat Kansas in the final. And
Yeah,
everybody, he automatically thinks to, well, they beat UNLV in that final, and it was in the Final Four. And you're right, Miracle on Ice, they beat Russia in the semifinal
right.
to then move on. So yeah, it's the same thing, right? Though that's exactly where I'm kind of at with this. Is I think there is a spot where, yeah, if they roll France, we're all going to be like, yeah, remember when they beat Serbia in that Olympic gold medal game? And then we'll be like, actually, that was the semifinal in that spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
All right, we've got a question here from Isham. Said, do NBA rookies get a signing bonus or an advance so they can get a home in their team state or country? Just curious. I actually don't
They
know
don't
how
really
that
get. I
works.
mean, there are very regularly. They get advanced payments. It's not a signing bonus of any kind. Because it's a scale amount. The rookie scale is. So what happens, because it is that scale amount, is they get they get put into, they can only make 120% of whatever their pick was. So what happens there is they may get an advance payment, so they'll get money forwarded to them early in a payment that pretty regularly happens. So what you see in that case is they may get, like, a couple of guys this year got between like 500 and 800K that were picked near the top of the line, or top of the draft rather. So they will get that in a form of advance payment, but it doesn't really change anything cap wise or that. But I mean, all they have to do is prove, hey, here's my contract that says I have millions of dollars coming to me. In any
Right.
bank in the world is going to be like, great, you need a mortgage? Done. Like,
Here you
here we
go.
go. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like
You know,
football where like seventh rounders and undrafted guys will get a 20 or $50,000 bonus and that kind of stuff. I don't know if people here watch Hard Knocks. I don't know if you ever watch it, Trevor,
yep, all the
but
time.
they
Love
they
it.
uh I watched the first episode of the Bears, and one of the
Uh-huh.
things they had, Caleb
Oh
Williams
yeah.
got up there, and he's like, my signing bonus is
Signing bonus.
25.5 million, and the whole place went bananas. And then they had this other guy's an undrafted offensive lineman. He's like, signing bonus 20,000.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how that works.
Right.
I'll address this one here real quick. Who Tatum is playing over? We already said not LeBron or KD.
Mhm.
AD, Bam, probably not AD, because AD is really the backup five. But if Bam is playing poorly, there's no reason he couldn't play there. Could play over Derek White. They could, Derek White wasn't playing well. I get it, different positions. Derek White's a ball handler and a guard. But you have more than enough guys handling the ball. And normally I would say you need Derek White for the on-ball defense against the opposing ball handlers, but they were getting chewed up left and right anyway on those. Serbia's whole game plan was either come off the screen, and if they're in drop, pull up and shoot a jump shot, or get it to Jokic at the nail, let him go to work, or let him pick out a cutter or a shooter. So that's that's the difference. And I'll pull this one up. Just Drew and White are guards. Yeah, and yet you have the coach who acts like he invented positionless basketball out there coaching. So who cares? They you play any five guys on this team and probably be fine, as long as you probably didn't put Embiid, AD, and Bam out there with two other forwards. You would have enough ball handling. But I mean, what are we doing? Like we gotta, we're all right. I'm not gonna keep arguing. Let's move on, because then now he's just saying stupid stuff that's not true. They played a awful defense. They let Serbia shoot for the vast majority of the game. They're shooting over 50% from the field and over 50% from three. So, like, they're not going to say they played good defense.
Steve Kerr not known for his defensive acumen, and I think that really showed out.
Well, one of the stories that came out is Eric Spoelstra and Ty Lue have been saying you got to come out of the switch everything defenses earlier, and it gets different personnel, and he's not doing it. So, whatever.
Oh, is that right? So they've actually been telling him, like, hey, you need
That's one of the stories that came out, was that they have pushed to say we have to go to other defensive coverages. And he even said at times, especially when Embiid is in the game, we should be playing his own, because he's not healthy, right? I think we can all see at this point he's not fully healthy, and he's struggling to move against certain teams. So, it's just tough.
And I thought that was Embiid's best performance.
I thought so too. Yeah, all around. I thought he looked better. Yeah, defensively he was bad, but I think that was more game plan. He was in drop coverage, and they were just shooting pull-up jumpers, and they were going in. So
and Serbia was hitting. And by the way, let's before we completely move off of this, Bogdanovic, he was phenomenal. Keith, like I even saw like Nick Young went to Twitter and said like, or X, and said, oh, the Lakers need to get Bogdanovic. But a lot of teams around the NBA were like, or a lot of fans around the NBA were like, how do we get this guy? Do you think that is an indication of what Bogdanovic could actually do at the NBA level, or was that just he was in his Serbian team scheme and he had a hot game and that's that?
Yeah, I think it's more in the middle. Like, we've seen him have big scoring games when they put the ball in his hands. What I don't know with Bogdanovic is, could he do it for every night in the NBA? Like, it's very easy here playing every other day at this point in the tournament in the Olympics to just kind of summon it. You're playing for your country and all that stuff. If it is the fourth game and your third game in 4 nights, like, you're going to be able to do that. Is it, my standard go-to is, what's it going to look like if you're random Tuesday night in Charlotte? Like, are you going to be able to summon, what you need to get it done with that? But we've seen him play really, really well. I think if he was on a better team, he'd be like the number one favorite to probably win 6 man. But he's not going to win 6 man of the year playing on the team that's not going to be very good, which is what the Hawks are going to be. They're probably going to be, in the mix for a play-in tournament in the East, and that's just not going to get him enough attention unless he absolutely goes bananas in that role.
Agreed. Okay. Well, he's a player that I like a lot at the NBA level. I think that opened our eyes around the league. A lot of people looking at him going, whoa, this guy really has something. But Keith, I know I
want to go to one more quick thing on this.
Go ahead.
Just because we were doing, me and Schmicky originals, we're doing some battle. He's absolutely right on this. Jokic is unbelievable. Like, he is unbelievable. He's just so good. And there are guys whose game translates to the NBA better. Bogdanovic, we just talked about it. Guys who translate better to the international game. I don't know what sport you could put Jokic in and he'd completely fail. Maybe water polo, because I don't know if he could keep his feet off the bottom of the pool long enough and not get penalized. But like,
we're trying to come up with sports Jokic is bad at.
any sport that involves spacing and passing, he's probably going to dominate at. Like, just soccer, maybe it's not going to be so good because I don't know how much he could run up and down the field, but you know what I mean. If it involves spacing and passing, he's just unbelievable. He just does, really kind of whatever he needs to do. Like, they ran repeatedly that action where it was just get him at the nail. And then he's turning, he's not even looking for a shot. And a couple times he had Curry on him, and he's at that point, probably at about 8 feet away and could just turn and shoot over him. And instead he's like, nah, I've got the cutter crashing in from the weak side. Let me just drop it off to him for the layup. Like, he's just,
because the US would panic and send the double. And then he would just,
now if we go to the second part surrounded with shooting, absolutely. And that's one of my issues with this year's KCP. Like, is it going to be, are they going to have enough shooting? So, all right, we want to move on to the next
here's what I've got. Keith, I know it is August, but it's Christmas time.
I love
it. Let's talk about Christmas Day games, we got that news came out yesterday because it's that time of the year where parts of the schedule are going to start to get leaked out. I'm assuming the opening night games will be not too far behind, but Shams Charania said we've got Christmas Day games. It's Spurs at Knicks, Wolves at Mavs, 76ers at Celtics, Lakers at Warriors, Nuggets at Suns. Keith, is this, are you fired up for, well, I know you're fired up because it's basketball, but when you look at this slate of games, if you could have picked any slate you possibly could that you would be the most excited about, how far off of that is that what we actually got?
I would have liked to have seen the Thunder and the Bucks in there somewhere. Here's my thing, though. I fully get the NBA. This is as much as a ratings type thing than it is these are the teams we believe are the best teams. There's no way anybody in the NBA thinks these are the 10 best teams next year. Some of them will be in that mix, but like no one's leaving the Thunder out of the top 10 best teams next year in the NBA. But are they going to be a big draw on Christmas Day? Maybe not yet, right? That might be a year away. I know some people are like, where are the Cavs, the Pacers, the Magic? What about the Grizzlies? They'll be back. Their time will come. They all need to win more. Win more, you'll get more popular, you'll get in there. I get it with the Spurs part of it. Like people are like, what in the world? But you put him Wemby on in prime time overseas. Like that game's going to do incredible numbers anyway here because it's the Knicks. You put the Knicks in that noontime spot, it always draws well. Then they're going to get the full international market because they're not watching Wemby at 2:00 in the morning, right? They're able to see his game at a normal time to watch a basketball game. So that's huge. Wolves Mavericks, rematch of the West Finals. Okay. Sixers Celtics, I get it. They're continuing to try to make that a thing. Lakers Warriors, it honestly might be the worst game of the slate, but it's Lakers and Warriors, so it's going to do great. You have Steph and LeBron, and hopefully they're both playing well. The only way that one ends up a real stinker is if somebody's like 10 and like 25 or what. I don't know
if they struggle.
If they're like 10 games under 500 at that point, or if you have injuries, obviously that can wreck it. And then Nuggets Suns, that's fine. Suns they're still more theoretically good than they are actually good. We have to wait and see with them, but that's the nightcap, and you're always going to have that as a West Coast game. So I think I'm fine with it. I think this is a lot of fun. I think this is going to be a really fun day of basketball. The layout I would have liked to see Wolves Mavericks flip-flop with Celtics Sixers. I like that middle game to be the one if I'm like, all right, I need to get in a quick nap here to make it through 5 games of basketball, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean it's going to be great.
I like this. I shouldn't be surprised that it was Lakers Warriors because that's tried and true. The NBA knows what they're getting. The NFL is starting to encroach upon Christmas. You knew once they got a taste of it a couple of years ago that they were going to keep doing it. And so that's something that the league, they can't get cute with it. They have to go with their bankable matchups. And with that being the case, you look at it and I think it tells you how much they're banking on Wemby, right? Because you go, okay, Jokic, Durant, Booker. You've got LeBron and AD, Curry. You've got Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You've got Joel Embiid. You've got Paul George. You've got Anthony Edwards, who's the big, the rising star, right? You've got Luka. You've got Jalen Brunson. You've got the Knicks. And then Wemby, and not SGA, right? Not some of the other teams that you could put in there. In terms of the overall quality of the team, yes, it should be OKC against the Knicks. That would be a great matchup. That would be so much fun. But the NBA is looking at this saying, Wemby is our guy. Wemby is going to be the star here, or at least one of the very bright stars that we are going to be building around it. So that's why they get this spot. So that was the first thing. Besides, obviously, I went to Lakers Warriors, but then right after that, I thought, guys, this tells you how highly the NBA views Victor Wembanyama and where they see his future going. That they gave the Spurs, who were not even a playoff team last season, this slot over a number of other teams.
Yeah, completely agree. And I actually wrote for the basketball bulletin today. I just some quick hit thoughts on the Christmas Day games. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it or not, but I did a little shout out to my buddy there where I said, hold on, I'm gonna get it because I can't exactly remember how I wrote it up, but I said the Lakers Warriors. And I said, tip, this game also isn't quite so huge that you can't do a late dinner on the East Coast or regular dinner time while watching on the West Coast. You can also help the kids put together some toys or play a board game or something. Unless you're my partner in crime, Trevor Lane, that is. If you're Trevor, it's time to work.
That's right.
So
here it is. Here's
you'll be working. There it is. Yep.
I dropped the link in the chat here so everybody can check that out. But there it is. Their thoughts on the Christmas Day schedule. It is. I was hoping to see maybe a fresh matchup for the Lakers because we've seen Lakers Warriors so much. But I also think if you're the NBA, you're thinking right now, how many more times are we going to get to go to the bank with LeBron versus Steph? Yep. At some point, we're not going to get that anymore. Let's do that. Let's get this in while we can. Let's do it. And so it makes sense from that perspective. But yeah, Keith's thoughts on the Christmas schedule, you guys can check out over on the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you go over there and subscribe as well.
I'll say with LeBron and Steph too, you need, like, this may be the last chance to capitalize where they're both still really good too.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, you could get it in a game or year or two, probably at this point, but it might, or who knows when the wheels are going to come off. We assume they eventually will. Maybe it's 10 years from now. I don't really know. I mean, I keep seeing LeBron rip down rebounds, go coast to coast on the other nine guys on the court for layups. Like, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't know why he'd ever retire.
He's unreal.
It is to this point. So my dad, my dad hates the Lakers and LeBron. Commenting, my dad just hates the NBA period now. He's like, all they do is carry. And back in my, like, he's like, it's insufferable to watch a game with him. He even said, he goes, how, like, it doesn't even make sense. He's like, he's, almost 40. He's like, how is he still, just beating the other guys down the court? And I was like, yeah, it doesn't, like, it's that. I know we always say, like, we're never going to see another player like this. And then somebody comes along. I just don't know when we're going to see another player with the longevity of also being one of the best players in the world. Like, it just does not make sense.
Yeah, like, it doesn't at all. He is, it's like you have to constantly remind yourself how old he actually is when he's out there. And now he's got the gray showing up in the beard and everything. And like, that's but that's the reminder. And then he goes out there and just throws down a thunder dunk. And you're like, man, he grabs and goes and goes coast to coast. And then, this is Team USA. This is the best American players in the league. And they're going to LeBron in crunch time, right? I mean, it's not like he's got this token spot as like a career accomplishment type thing that they're just giving it to him as like a nod to what he's done in the past. No, this is like, we need you. Right. And he's out there taking the ball when the big moments are there. So it's unreal, man. It's unreal. It really, and the older I get, the more I appreciate it, because the more I start to just hurt and ache and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, I have no idea how he's doing this.
Well, and I mean, I remember when we were kids, it was Kareem and Robert Parrish were the two guys who were played forever. And Kareem was still, he wasn't Kareem by the end, and Robert Parrish was definitely not the same guy by the end. But it was like neither one of them was at that point in their career like one of the best players in the world. And you still can't make a list. I don't know. It's so hard because if you make it just about the NBA, you have to factor in availability. Yeah. How hard is LeBron going to bring it all regular season and all that stuff? That has to be as a part of the discussion point. But the bigger point is, like, if you really need it, how many guys are you picking for, I need to win one game, right? Like, maybe two, like maybe Jokic and I don't know, maybe just Jokic. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know. I might still even pick LeBron. Like, it's just, he's just unreal.
I mean, LeBron defended Jokic down the stretch. Yeah. And yesterday's game, that was a switch.
He defended him the best of anybody down the stretch, too.
I was shocked because the Lakers tried that, and there were moments where I'd have to imagine, we'll hear about this later. There'll be like the oral history of this or whatever. I wonder if LeBron asked for it. I wonder if he asked for that.
Yeah, maybe.
That switch to be
made. And honestly, those are the guys he's better at defending now. The bigger players,
the bigger guys,
because he's so damn strong and still. And what I like when he's on a bigger guy is he's quick enough to like just kind of dodge around him and knock away the entry pass or whatever it is. Like he's better than those against those guys than he is on perimeter guys at this point. But yeah, it's yeah, man, it's fun.
All right,
Craig says playing tournament should decide who plays on Christmas. One, it's way too close. Like like they end way too close together, and the NBA is not. I mean, it's not. I don't hate the idea of it, but logistically, that's a nightmare. Like that would probably never work out.
All right, let's move away from Christmas here because just by having this background up, I already have that Mariah Carey song stuck in my head just in the background. Yep. All right, there we go. One thing I want to talk about before we head off for the weekend, Jonathan Kuminga looking for max extension from the Warriors. That was from our pal Jake Fisher. What are your thoughts on that? And how should the Warriors respond to that? How should they handle that situation?
I mean, great, right? It's good to have goals in life, and you really want to, get the most money you can get. And I'm in complete agreement that he deserves big money. But the four guys from his draft class that have gotten the max so far are Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, and Franz Wagner. Of that group, Scotty Barnes has been the best player so far. Then Franz or Mobley, that's depending on what you value more, offense or defense. Then you have Cunningham, who, when healthy, is shown, all right, this is a guy who you can build your entire team around. I don't get that same feeling with Kuminga. I'm not going to scream and yell if the Warriors were to give him a max from the in a vacuum portion. He'd be
a fun max, right?
Correct. Yeah. But what you're coming, if you're the Warriors, you just kind of dug yourself out of years of being one of the more expensive teams. And at least for the next couple of seasons, you'd be jumping right back into that again, where, after this year, you'd be right back to multiple guys, making, near max money, or at least up near 30 million. So that's the challenge. And he was okay in his first 2 years and then took major steps forward in year 3. Some of that was just, he finally got more playing time, got more consistent playing time. I don't know that he's the guy I want to give a max contract to.
Yeah. And I think that under the new collective bargaining agreement, teams have to be a bit more choosy with who they give a max to. Now, that said, again, we'll be shouting this from the mountaintops. Not all maxes, just like not all first-round picks, are created equal. A max for Jonathan Kuminga is not the same as a max for Kevin Durant, right? These are two very different things in terms of how much money actually gets paid out. But nonetheless, I think you're probably right. Now, does that mean Kuminga wants a max? Does that mean that's what he's going to get? Not necessarily, right? That doesn't mean that's where this ultimately ends up. Teams will negotiate. There'll be a back and forth. It's great that he wants that, but we'll see ultimately where this lands with the Warriors and if they're able to get an extension done. When's their deadline to get something done extension wise? Is it all the way through to the end of June for next season?
No. Rookie scale extensions have to be done by the end of October.
Yep. End of October, right. Okay.
But it's really by the start of the season. So start of the season is October 22nd. So I think it's the 21st.
So we'll see if something gets done.
Here's the approach I would take with Kuminga. I would, if it's max or nothing, then I would say, all right, let's let it play out then. And if he plays great, they can always max him out as a restricted free agent.
And he's restricted. Summer. That's it.
Or let's see what somebody else gives you for an offer. And like we've seen that backfire on a team, but that's one where it's one of my favorite things to say right now is let tomorrow's problem be tomorrow's problem. If he signs a 3+1 and opts out 3 years from now, fine. It is what it is. We'll figure it out then. And at that point, you'll still be able to pay him more money than anybody else can. And maybe that'll be enough at that point. But yeah, I would not give him a max. I don't feel as good. Those other four guys, those are the four guys that I figured would all get the max, and I'm pretty good with it. Kuminga, I just don't feel as good about that one.
Yeah, agreed. All right, before we call it a day here, I do want to shout out a couple things that we've got working on here. Keith, I told you a little bit about this, but we talk comics. We talk comic book movies on here quite a bit. and getting a little channel started here. Keith, I'm sure you'll probably hop in now and then and join us here. But you know how I love alliteration. So the Heroic Haven is now
Nice.
up. We've just put up our intro so far. Have some fresh content coming on Monday. We already have, I think, 3 or 4 of these in the can. And so we'll be officially launching next week. But want to give you guys a little sneak peek there at the channel. And you guys can go subscribe. And we're going to be talking all things comics, all things, particularly movies when we look at superheroes and the fantastic and all that kind of stuff. That's what we're going to be getting into. So there'll be stuff on, of course, the MCU, stuff on DC, stuff on some of the television series. We get into the boys and all that kind of stuff is going to be over there. So I'm really excited about this. Glad to have, we'll have a little outlet to talk some non-basketball stuff. So you guys can check that out. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is the Basketball Bulletin does have a YouTube channel as well. So let me throw that out there so you guys can check that out. That's where we've got some other basketball content stuff that didn't really fit under the umbrella of the front office show. That's out for you guys to take a look at. But Trevor can't help but create content. He's a freaking machine. That's the way it goes. Right? That's the way it is. When
another job.
I've got so many things I want to talk about. I love talking about basketball all the time. Keith and I, we get to talk movies on here quite a bit, but I wanted something more official to get to really, kind of dive into that stuff and have some fun with it. So that's there. And then the Basketball Bulletin allows for some more short form content, some basketball stuff that, again, maybe didn't fit under the front office umbrella. So you know what? This is what we do. We love doing it, and we have a blast with it. So, go check it out.
I'll tell you, man, the comment is spot on. Not a job when you love it. Life tip. Huge. I've spent the last couple days outside of getting estimates to get our roof replaced, which, we were sold on the American dream of buying a home was, sure. That's great. I was always told a boat is a hole in the water you throw money into. I feel like that's what a home is. It's just a hole in the ground you just keep putting money into. But I get it. Like, we live here and we've decided we're going to be here for a while, so it's time to start fixing up some stuff. So did a little bit of adulting, but around that, I've been rewatching Summer League and catching up on everybody from Summer League because I'm writing up a bunch of stuff about we've already got 2 divisions posted over on Spot Track, the Central Division and the Pacific Division. Thoughts on every rostered player. So either guys on a standard contract, guys on a 2-way, guys on a camp deal, or guys who may show up. So we've, I think it was 60 players in each of the first 2 divisions that I covered across those teams. We'll have another division getting posted here probably at the beginning part of next week. But yeah, and then, man, I am fired up tomorrow. It's just one of those all-time great sports days. Like, I'm just going to be watching sports all day. We have the not Premier League, that's not this weekend, but next weekend. But Leeds starts their season tomorrow morning as the championship and the lower leagues get started. Then we've got the U.S. women's soccer team is playing. We've got the gold medal game. I've got a couple baseball games in between. It's just going to be straight sports all day for me. So, I'll be locked in on the NBA or the gold medal game. At least I don't know if I'm going to get up at 5 to watch Germany, Serbia. I already put it on to record, so yeah. I might call it on that one, but I'll watch that later. But yeah, I am fired up for tomorrow. It's gonna be a good day of sports.
Smokey said, so no more scheduled nonsense. Oh no, we will still have scheduled nonsense here. Yeah. That doesn't, we will always have nonsense. Yeah. That's not going to go anywhere.
Probably more unscheduled nonsense than scheduled nonsense, but right. There will definitely be nonsense.
That's 90% of the show. There's always nonsense.
Yeah. Come on now. If we didn't do nonsense, these shows would all be 5 minutes long. And it'd be like, we're reading you the news, and nobody wants that. So yeah.
we have plenty of nonsense.
It's ridiculous. Why not have it at 10 or something? Because it's in France. They're not. Yeah, that's 1 p.m. in France. Like, yep. That's why it's done. So yeah, they're already complaining that they get basketball games so late, which is like in an American window at 3:30. I think it is, yep. Right? So yeah. Oh, you want to address this real quick? What's the next Laker trade rumor? I don't know.
The next one?
Yeah.
I mean,
what are you hearing?
Pick a name. Pick anybody, right?
Yeah.
At this point.
Now Lauri Markkanen, he can't be traded. So
nope.
Anybody else?
It's August. It's all quiet right now. It's all quiet
it's
right
gonna
now.
Be it's gonna be pretty it's probably gonna be pretty quiet for the next little bit because a couple of the other guys who are like out there, their teams don't seem super motivated to move them. So I think we're in a spot where it's just you're gonna have to wait. I think there is a like 90-10 chance the Lakers are what they are for the start of the season. And they just go in with this being the roster. And that's every team right now. There's a handful more free agents that'll sign and stuff like that. Like I did this yesterday. The Cavs still have 6 open roster spots.
6?
3 two-way and 3 standard. I am not entirely sure what all is happening there. I'm sure a lot of that's tied to seeing what happens with Okoro, but yeah. So we'll see. But yeah.
Oh man. Well, so at least there's some things that are going to happen there. But all right. Well, let's head off to the weekend. Let's hope the US wins gold tomorrow. And we'll be live over on playback.tv/Lakers Nation watching that game. If we end up doing anything together for the game, of course, we'll put it here on the front office show as well. But thank you everybody for joining us. This is a lot of fun. Make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.